Welcome back to PH.d TV, and today we'll be going over I suck at opening. Welcome back to PH.d TV, and today we'll be going over 5 ways to be applying fragrances correctly. I suck. 5 tips to be applying fragrances. 5 tips to apply fragrances, and today we'll be going over 5 tips to applying fragrances. I had to put my hand up way too late. Welcome to PH.d TV, and today we'll be going over 5 tips to applying fragrances. Alright, so the first tip to this is understanding pulse points. Now, what are pulse points? That is parts of your body, and you can Google this, and I'll even put up a little picture up here shortly. Pulse points is where you get a lot of blood flow close to the skin, which means when you apply fragrance, that blood will help really push the fragrance out. You'll project a little bit better. These places do include the neck, the wrists, inside this part of your arm. I almost said the elbow, but that'd be the other side. But you get the drift. At these places, that is where your blood flow will be able to really help project your scent, and that is what you want out of a scent ultimately, is to be smelled. And something you can do, moving on to our second tip, if you're someone who, and I'm kind of like this, if you're someone who when they spray on cologne at these pulse points and your skin kind of soaks up those oils and it just kind of soaks up and drinks the fragrance and the projection doesn't last that long, then try putting non-scented lotion on these areas. Some brand that I would suggest is Cetaphil. That's a brand that does not have a very high scent. That is a brand that you just rub on very lightly. It soaks in very quickly, so rub it in, give it about 10 minutes, spray your fragrance on, and your fragrance will have a more likelihood of sitting on the surface and lasting longer. Going into our third tip, you gotta understand the strength of your fragrance. Now, I'm a big believer in wanting to be smelled, which sometimes, depending on the fragrance, that can mean I put on 20 squirt. Not really 20, maybe 15. But overall, it depends. If you have a strong fragrance, you want to apply 3 to 4 sprays, because that's enough to be minimal amount, but that's also enough to be able to be very inoffensive. But granted, if you have a fragrance, typically it's a more aquatic, because those are very light. You can spray on more depending on how strong it is to begin with, because there's no point in, putting on a fragrance and it lasts the next hour when you're going to be out for the next 6. So just know your fragrances ahead of time, experiment with them, wear them around the house, see how long that they last naturally. Because like one cologne that I have, Club de Nuit Intense from Armaf, I can put on 5 squirts and I am completely good for the day. And then I have a cologne that's Nautica Life, and that smells fantastic, but its longevity is not that great. So I douse that completely and it lasts the next 4 hours after I probably squirt it 15 times. Now that sounds like a lot. And the next tip is when to spray on a fragrance. The best times I can think of is 1 hour before you go on a date or before you go on to your event, whatever it is, 1 hour before that thing. Fresh out of the shower where your skin is, all the pores are open and it's able to absorb everything. So if you want maximum projection, that'd be a great time to put on your fragrance then as well. Or even throughout the day. Because the reason I would say, going back to that first one, is that 1 hour before an event is a great time for your cologne to truly breathe, live, and get to its resting place. If you're not aware, most fragrances, they go through a top note, a mid note, and a final note, in which that is where the fragrance officially sits, and that is the smell you generally smell for the hours to go. So spraying on an hour before any event will be that good middle ground to where it's beginning to sit, and you can just go ahead and let everyone smell what you will be smelling like for the rest of the night without it constantly changing throughout. And when you come out of the shower, as I said, your pores are open, your body is willing to absorb anything you give it in terms of drying and patting things off. It is what it is. So putting on a fragrance right out of the shower will allow your oils of the fragrance to soak into your skin and really help that projection just absolutely burst whenever you move on out to start your day, to do what you want around the house, or even going to bed if you just want to smell nice. It's a great way to have that carry on the next day to really push that natural scent in a different way. And when I say you can spray it on whenever you want throughout the day, why not? If you don't want to spray fragrance 15 times like I have to with Nautica, then have a little travel size or take it with you wherever you want to go and just put it on every so often throughout the day. There's nothing wrong with, rehashing or revamping your fragrance, because, we want to smell good, so you do what you gotta do to make sure you have that consistent smell throughout the day. And lastly, this is a fragrance do's and don'ts in terms of what clothes you're wearing. So something that you do not do when applying fragrances is spraying it directly on your clothes. Now, time out. There actually is an unwritten rule to this. Do not put fragrances on your dress clothes like this, what I'm wearing now. Because this is a much finer fabric than, say, the average t-shirt from American Eagle, Old Navy, wherever you get your clothes from. So therefore, it is more than likely gonna be able to pick up the oils a lot better than the one ones that you buy at the everyday store. And the thing is, these are your nice clothes. You do not want stains, you do not want this or that on, so just be mindful of that. You can do what you want, your clothes, your fragrance, you do you. That's the whole point of this channel, you do you. But just be mindful on spraying too close or getting the oils of a fragrance on your shirt and it just completely ruin what you got going on. But the do's is that with your casual clothes, you have a better likelihood of putting it on your t-shirts and things like that, which will actually make the fragrance last longer, especially if it's a dark shirt. A dark shirt will not show the oil markings, and typically most light shirts won't either, because it's a fabric that just won't show oils that well in comparison to a dress shirt. So with that being said, spray it on your shirts on that point. And the way it makes it last longer is because it's not like skin that absorbs oils. It will sit on your shirt and completely last the majority of the day. Now, of course, oils, just like water, it can evaporate and do its thing, and it will go away after some time, of course. Evaporate was probably the wrong word, but you get the gist, it goes away eventually. But it goes away a lot slower because it's holding on to the fabrics and the fibers of your shirt compared to skin, which will soak it up and be done with it after a few hours. So, long story short, don't spray it on your dress shirts or your dress wear, but you can pretty much put it on anything else. Just don't douse it. And that is the end of today's episode on the 5 tips on spraying fragrances, the 5 tips on applying fragrances. I swear I need to figure out the titles of my videos. So if you like what you've seen here, go ahead and share me. Let people know if you think this could be useful to someone else. Share it with them and have them subscribe right here. Aside from that, thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time on PH.d TV. Have a great one.